I'm Dr. William Markson, Bill Markson, and I am proud to be the Maimonides president and super proud to be introducing everyone to this program. We have a bunch of founders here who are really here right from the beginning.
I do not look at the screen.
Well, at the time, I was president of Federation.
Well, the first call that I got was from a guy named Stuart Mellon. It's me, L-L-A-N. He was the assistant director of the Federation to Ivan Schenker, who was the executive director. And he asked me to have lunch with him. And his ideas at that time were to get more doctors involved because the demography of the Federation in the Lehigh Valley had changed over the years.
I don't remember exactly because it was literally 35 years ago, but Mickey, Oliver Sholem, and I, and a few others talked about the idea of forming a society that might do some good by having visitors from Israel here doing some medical things for people who needed it, etc. And it began in Mickey's basement.
Time plays tricks on your mind. I remember it not being in the basement, but rather in the kitchen.
Those meetings, which occurred every month or two, alternated between Mickey's basement and our basement.
You know, another item I'm pretty proud of is that during COVID, I think we've had some really interesting COVID-related talks. We had Rachel Levine on for an interview, and we had this terrific program talking about the history of vaccine, and we had Hillary Kaprowski, whose grandfather was a emigre from Poland and was super involved with first vaccination programs in this country, including working on polio and rabies. I think everyone really enjoyed that, and it was fascinating. I'd like to see more kind of historical talks in the future as well.
Well, I think because of our location, we have a captivated audience. You know, we have only so many Jewish physicians that come to the area, and it would be really wonderful if our those physicians would all become involved in some way, whether it's financially supportive or talking at a brunch.
I just think that they should keep on carrying the ball, keep on helping the Allentown Jewish community. What we started, they should just continue doing, and I will be, extremely proud of the members, and we're continuing doing a good work, and they should continue in our footsteps.
Mentoring or networking. So because we have a small pool to draw from, it would be nice if we had a lot of participation within that pool. And that would be my goal for the society, to continue to grow as much as it can, given our, again, geographic size and who comes to the valley. That's all we really can appeal to, and continue to serve the community with educational forums, which were very well received by the community. Philanthropy, education, those are all wonderful goals that keep the society going and contribute to the overall objectives of the Federation.
And we are especially honored to be able to, again, talk a little bit more about Mickey Offberg, who passed away this past year, was really instrumental in the founding of Maimonides.
Once I was in practice as a general internist, he chose me to be his doctor. And knowing the kind of mensch that he was, it was like a supreme compliment to me that he chose me as his doctor. And he was a wonderful patient.
Those of us who had the honor of knowing Mickey Offberg know that he was a person and a physician that went out of his way to be beyond himself. But there was a very lovely core group of people who wanted to do things beyond themselves. And that has characterized the Jewish community of the Lehigh Valley for generations.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today to celebrate 35 years of our Maimonides Society. Our Maimonides Society is one of the oldest and most successful in the country, at the forefront of both philanthropy and service in the Lehigh Valley Jewish community. The Society provides a unique opportunity for healthcare professionals to come together to connect to a cause they care about and to connect to each other. In Hebrew, letters of the alphabet are assigned numeric value, as known as gematria. And in thinking about the number 35, we find that the words chai, tov, chai meaning life, as we know is 18, and tov, which means good or goodness, is represented with the value of 17. Together, these two words have a value of 35. And on this auspicious occasion, we know that these two words have significant meaning for our healthcare professionals. It is our healthcare professionals, especially during these trying times of the pandemic, who work tirelessly to provide goodness in the lives of the many they serve. I wish all of our Maimonides members a life of goodness as we celebrate these past 35 years and look forward to the next 35. May we all continue to go from strength to strength. It gives me great pleasure to acknowledge and welcome some of our elected officials who are here today. Congresswoman Susan Wild, Chief of Staff for State Senator Pat Brown Ellen Kern, Representative Michael Schlossberg, and Allentown Mayor Matt Turk. Although he could not be here, special thanks to Senator Pat Toomey for sending a proclamation honoring and celebrating our Maimonides Society at 35. Again, thank you for all you do and for being part of our celebration today. Susan?
Good morning, everybody. It is my distinct pleasure to be with the Maimonides Society this morning and to present a certificate of special congressional recognition on the occasion of your 35th anniversary. So many of the members of Maimonides are my good friends. Some of you are my physicians, and I greatly appreciate all of the work that you do here in the Lehigh Valley to build a sense of community and to provide the wonderful medical care that you do. I have to say that the story of Rabbi Maimon is one of my favorites. It's truly an intriguing story for anybody who doesn't know it, but I assume that most of you do. And his spirit of both philosophy and providing medical care to the masses and educating his community are ones that I believe are carried on by this society every single day. So it is with great honor and pleasure that I present this certificate of special congressional recognition to you on the occasion of your 35th anniversary. Mazel tov, and be well.
Good morning. On behalf of State Senator Pat Brown, congratulations to the Maimonides Society of the Lehigh Valley on your 35th anniversary, or your Emerald anniversary, which is especially appropriate for this group since emerald is a sacred stone of the goddess Venus. It has long been the symbol of hope and healing. Just as with healers, emeralds act as a tranquilizer for the troubled mind. And like a diamond, it is only beautiful after the proper processing of the top coat. The Maimonides Society of the Lehigh Valley polishes all of whom it helps, especially by collecting its collective and considerable wisdom. According to the Bible, wisdom is more precious than jewels. Nothing you can desire can compare with her. Thanks to the Maimonides Society of the Lehigh Valley for polishing so many jewels to add to the collective crown of the Lehigh Valley. Here's to your next 35 years and beyond. And in recognition, Senator Brown has sponsored a proclamation signed and sealed in the Senate. So today you've made history in the Commonwealth. And as I said, it contains every good wish for a future replete with much more success, and it also creates or gives thanks to all of you, everything that you've done. So on behalf of Senator Brown, thanks and congratulations.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Schlossberg, and I have the honor of serving as state representative for the 132nd Legislative District. It is my honor to be here and join my friends and colleagues. I also have a proclamation from the House of Representatives. And looking at the screen of all the attendees, it's like seeing a panel of all of my doctors. So it's really wonderful to be here today. The one thing that I want to add to what Congresswoman Wild and what Ellen Kern said is my sincerest of personal appreciation. One of the things that I find myself constantly struggling with as an elected official is finding the ability to motivate people and to encourage others to care not just about themselves, but each other and society at large. All of you who are listening today are physicians, so I don't have to convince you how important it is that we care for one another. What I will say is that by being a member of the Maimonides Society, by being an active participant in the field of medicine, you are doing so much more than just caring for your patients. What the Maimonides Society has done, both in the Lehigh Valley, in Israel, and throughout the world, is so important because you take the time out of pressures and an incredible degree of busyness that I can't even begin to comprehend to do more and to make this community and this world a better place. And for that, as someone who tries to do as much good as possible, I am truly, truly grateful. So, on behalf of my colleagues in the House of Representatives, it is my pleasure to present all of you virtually with this proclamation and turn the program over to my friend, Allentown's new mayor, Matt Turk. Thank you, everyone.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today, and thank you for your service to our community. And I want to thank the Jewish Federation of the Lehigh Valley for bringing us all together today. I'd like to read to you a proclamation from the City of Allentown. Here's where we go with the whereases and the therefores. So whereas the Lehigh Valley Maimonides Society was the first chapter of the society formed 35 years ago and has subsequently served as an example for Jewish communities across North America and has been at the forefront of both philanthropy and service, providing pro bono medical care to the needy. And whereas the Maimonides Society provides the opportunity for healthcare professionals to serve both the Jewish and general community locally and overseas through philanthropy, medical service, and educational opportunities. And whereas with over 120 members, the society was developed to foster a sense of common purpose and commitment among healthcare professionals and to work toward the betterment of Jews wherever they may be. And whereas the Maimonides Society has continued to foster a sense of common purpose and commitment among Jewish healthcare professionals of the Lehigh Valley to work towards the betterment of Jews and this community throughout its 35 years. Now, therefore, I, Matt Turk, Mayor of the City of Allentown, do hereby proclaim January 30th, 2022 to be the Maimonides Society Appreciation Day in the City of Allentown. I encourage all of my fellow Allentonians to join me in recognizing the 35th anniversary of the Maimonides Society and its service to our local Jewish community and beyond. Thank you and have a great day.
Hi, I'm Bill Markson. I'm so happy to be here celebrating our 35th anniversary of Maimonides. For sure, the 34th and 35th years were challenging. I want to just add a little bit more description of who are our Maimonides members. They're capable, bright, broad-minded, charitable, interesting human beings. And I believe they help make our Jewish community special, our broader community special, and our medical community special. And those features certainly characterized Mickey and all of the other founding members of our society. You know, COVID allowing, our community through our Maimonides mission will be dedicating an Ambi Cycle like the one here that was donated by our community. And please contact me or Jerry or Aaron if you have any interest. I'm really thinking this is going to be a great trip and well-timed in terms of COVID. I'd like to introduce now Eli Beer, who is the president and founder of United Hatzalah of Israel. After witnessing a bus bombing in Jerusalem as he was walking home from school at age 6, Eli was inspired to pursue a career that it would allow him to save lives. He became a certified EMT at age 15 and began volunteering on an ambulance in order to follow his life's mission. What he found, though, was that when someone needed fast medical attention, the ambulance was unable to arrive in time, particularly given traffic, congestion, and distance from which the ambulance was dispatched. Although just a teenager, Beer gathered a group of like-minded EMTs with a passion for saving lives to listen to police scanners and rush to the scene when medical help was needed in their neighborhood. The initiative eventually became Hatzalah, meaning rescue in Hebrew. In 2006, Eli changed the name of the organization to United Hatzalah to represent the partnership of Jewish, Muslim, Druze, and Christian volunteers working together in order to save lives. United Hatzalah has become so successful that it has been at the forefront of medical innovation. Its fleet of vehicles, including the Ambi Cycle, which is a motorcycle that has all the medical equipment of an ambulance, aside from a stretcher, allows the EMTs to reach patients on an average of 90 seconds in Jerusalem and 3 minutes across Israel. In 2006, he invented Moskowitz Life Compass, which is the most advanced location technology, able to locate the 5 closest EMS responders within 3 seconds of an emergency. In 25 years, the organization has grown to more than 5,000 volunteers who unite together to save lives, regardless of race or religion. And this communal EMS network treats over 300,000 people per year in Israel as they wait for ambulances and medical attention. Eli's vision is to bring this life-saving model across the world, and in 2015, he expanded internationally with the establishment of branches in South America and other countries, including United Rescue in Jersey City. I guess New Jersey is its own country, where the response time was reduced to just 2 minutes and 35 seconds. For his tireless work, Eli has received various recognitions and awards, including being named as Social Entrepreneur of the Year in Israel by the Schwab Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship in 2010, receiving the Israel President Prize by President Shimon Peres for Innovation and Volunteering in 2011, becoming a World Economic Forum Young Global Leader in 2012, elected by Queen Rania of Jordan, and being awarded the Victor J. Goldberg Prize for Peace in the Middle East in 2013. In addition to all this, Eli lives in Jerusalem with his wife Giddy and 5 children, some of whom are also EMT providers. Please welcome Eli Beer.
Good morning to all of you. It's really exciting to be with
Jewish
you.
Federation of Lehigh Valley. I'm Shai Jaskol, and we're here at the Command and Control Center of United Hatzalah in Jerusalem. I wanted to take this opportunity on behalf of the 6,200 volunteers and everyone who's saving lives as we speak throughout the state of Israel to say thank you. I want to say thank you for your partnership and sponsoring an Ambi Cycle that's recently completed its service. That Ambi Cycle has been, like us, around Israel, has serviced communities in Tel Aviv, Netanya, and most recently up north in Ma'alot. We want to say thank you because this Ambi Cycle has been working hard because of your support. And together we've been saving lives. Nearly 1,500 emergencies have been saved by the use of your Lehigh Valley Ambi Cycle here on the streets of Israel. As this one transitions out of service and your new one is going to be put into service, we want to say thank you for the continued support, love, and we have appreciation. Without you, as Eli says, Eli Bir, our president and founder, lives could not be saved if we didn't have that partnership between the people saving lives and running out 3 in the morning and the person who puts the motorcycle with all the equipment on the road. So this Ambi Cycle is a continuation. Just like we continue to save lives, Jewish Federation of Lehigh Valley is continuing to enable us to save lives. You're enabling us to do what we love to do, is help all and every person within the borders of the state of Israel. As we know, it says saving one life is like you've saved the whole world. Well, that's been done time and time again by the Lehigh Valley Ambi Cycle that we have had on the streets of Israel. We look forward to this one being out of service in the near future and seeing the new one placed into service and continuing the life-saving mission that we both share together. We thank you for the partnership and thank you from all of us here at United Hatzalah.
Well, that was beautiful. And I'm really excited to be with all of you today in this beautiful occasion of chesed, of kindness that we all do together, you share together for so many years. Jerry, I'm so excited to be with you again. You know, we were together so many years ago driving the ambulance in Jerusalem and the Ambi Cycles. And unfortunately, I can't be with you today because we're on Zoom, but I hope to see you very soon in March in Israel. I hope you all take that opportunity to come. Israel is becoming a little safer than it was a few days ago. And hopefully in the next few weeks, we're going to be totally great and back to have guests coming and leaving from Israel every day. But I want to share my personal story with you and why I'm here today. So I grew up in Jerusalem in a small neighborhood in actually the south part of Jerusalem. If you know Yad Vashem, where Yad Vashem is, I'm sure you've been there. Right nearby, they have a small neighborhood called Bayit Vagan. So when I was a 6-year-old boy, I came back from school on a Friday afternoon, like every other Friday, waiting for my friends to go back home. I was a young kid. I was almost 6 years old, but I just had to go by bus for a few stops to get home. And as the bus stopped at the bus stop, the number 12 bus blew up. It was the first bomb attack on a bus in Israel. This was a tragedy that happened in our neighborhood, a small, tiny neighborhood. Most of our community were American Jews who moved to Israel, made Aliyah. And it was a traumatic thing for everyone, including myself, who was traumatized, seeing a bus on fire and people screaming for help. So when I ran away from there, I remember someone screaming for help, an older man screaming for help. And I didn't know how to help them. I was too young and I just ran away. And I was, for years, just bothered me, this situation I saw. And I said to myself, one day when I grow up, I want to become a doctor and save people's lives. So for years, that was my dream, to save one person, actually save one person. And then when I was about 15 years old, I saw they had an EMT course starting. So I said, you know what, I'll join to be an EMT in Jerusalem. Maybe I'll save someone's life. And I did the course and I learned how to save someone. I learned the CPR, I learned how to stop bleeding, and I learned all these other techniques. What do you do in an emergency? I'm sure a lot of you know. And I went to join the back of an ambulance. It was an incredible feeling. And when I was in the back of the ambulance, I was helping a lot of people, and I felt wonderful with it. But I used to write down the emergency calls of when we received it and when we arrived to the calls. And I realized that we're not getting there fast enough. We're getting there an average of 17 minutes response time. 17 minutes, that's what it took us to get to emergency calls. And about a year and a half after we started volunteering, I started volunteering, I had an emergency call for a 7-year-old boy who was eating lunch. And while he was having lunch and he was eating a hot dog, he choked on that little hot dog. And his mother saw him turning blue. And she called for help. She called an ambulance. And I was in the back of the ambulance when we received the call. And it took us 21 minutes to arrive. We came from the other side of town, 21 minutes. We were fighting traffic, fighting the distance. And we finally arrived at this little home in Jerusalem. And we heard the screaming of the mother for help. When we arrived there to the home, we started CPR on this child who was completely cold and blue. And a minute or two later, someone runs into the house. He's holding a leash of a dog. He was a doctor, and he was walking his dog, and he saw the ambulance parked there, so he ran to help us. And we were working for 30 or 35 minutes on this boy, trying to save him. And after that, he said, there was nothing we could do, just bring a sheet to cover him. That was the worst moment of my life. Being a 16-and-a-half-year-old boy who had some experience in doing CPR, but I never really felt what it means to bring a sheet to cover a 7-year-old boy who just died. And I was so bothered by the fact that a doctor who lived a block away was in his house while this whole thing happened. Only after the ambulance arrived, that's when he realized something is wrong. I said to myself, the system is broken. We need to fix something. It doesn't make sense that if some child is choking, a doctor who's nearby doesn't know about it, but an ambulance from the other side of town knows about it. I said, I have to change the system. So I went over to the ambulance organization in Jerusalem, again, David Adom, and I offered them, let's start a response team to respond to emergencies before ambulance. So volunteers who are trained could respond to calls before ambulances arrive, but they didn't like the idea at all. They thought if someone, like they said, and everywhere around the world, if someone calls for help, he gets an ambulance. We're not just going to send out the calls to everyone. So I was stuck. What do I do now? I need the emergency calls routed to us. Like, I know many of you are doctors. If something happens nearby you, if you would know something is happening nearby you, you would run to save that person or help that person. So I said, how do I get that information? How do I get the emergency calls routed to me if they don't want to share it with me? So what I did is I decided to use the Israeli innovation called chutzpah. And we invented that innovation called chutzpah. And I bought police scanners and I had some bar mitzvah money left, and I bought it in a Radio Shack in New York. And I came back with it to Israel, and I started an underground command center, underground, like literally underground, listening into the ambulances. And every time I had an emergency call, I would send it out by pagers to my friends who joined me. And we started responding to emergency calls. Every time an ambulance was sent somewhere, we were very close. If we heard we were very close, we would just run there. Like the picture you see behind me of these 3 volunteers who are with me now, saving lives. But that's how we started, with 15 volunteers. And the first emergency that I responded to was a man who was hit by a car, and I was a block away, and I just ran there. And I was there so close. When I arrived there, I saw this person on the floor. People were surrounding him. He was around 70 years old. He was bleeding very bad from his neck. And I knew I had to stop his bleeding. So I didn't have any even bandages on me. I just was holding that walkie-talkie scanner. And I asked, anyone here have bandages? No one did. No one knew what to do. So I took my yarmulke off my head, and I used it as a tourniquet, as something to stop bleeding. And that's how I stopped his bleeding. I just pushed it in as much as I could. and waited for an ambulance to arrive. And finally, the ambulance arrived, and they took this man to the hospital. And I didn't know if he'll survive or not. But then 2 days later, I get a phone call. This man says, "Are you Eli Beer?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you treated my father 2 days ago on Hapisgah Street. And my father was in a really, really bad situation, but he woke up this morning in Hadassah Hospital, and my father's alive because of you. You stopped his bleeding. Could you come visit him? He wants to thank you for saving his life." So I was crying. This is the first time I actually saved someone after a year and a half volunteering in an ambulance. I never got to see someone come back to life. I never saw the feeling. I never felt that feeling of saving someone. I helped many people, but I never saw that kind of situation. So I ran to Hadassah. I got there, and this person was laying in this bed, very weak. He was pale, he was bandaged all over. He was in a bad situation, but he was alive and he was conscious and he was with his family. And they were all thanking me and hugging me. And then he said to me in Hebrew, "Boy na yeled, ani rotze letet lecha chibuk." He said, "Come here, child, I want to give you a hug." This is before COVID, if you remember. People used to hug each other. He gave me a hug, and this was the best hug I ever got in my life. And then when he took his hands off me, I saw he had a number on his hand. He had a number with a few letters tattooed on his hand. And when I saw that moment with the numbers on his hand, that moment changed my life. That moment, everything changed for me. And I became a hero. I literally became a hero. I was 16 and a half years old. I felt, okay, I just saved someone. I don't want to stop doing this. I want to do this more. And if I save one person, I could probably save another person. And it's addictive. It's the best addiction you could ever have. So I got more volunteers to join. I went ahead from neighborhood to neighborhood in Jerusalem and got more volunteers. And then I went to other cities. But I said to myself, I need to break record. I want to make sure we get there in 90 seconds to every emergency. We need to get to emergencies before brain damage starts. When someone's not breathing, you don't have more than 2 minutes to get to that person. So I want to get there before that 2 minutes. I want to get in the 90 seconds. How do you do that? You build a network of volunteers. But these volunteers, when they run there by foot, it takes them time. Sometimes we would have to run up a hill in Jerusalem or use a car. We can't find parking. I said to myself, I need to get things more efficient. So I went and I used to see the motorcycles in Jerusalem driving around delivering pizza. I said, if these guys deliver pizza and the pizza gets there when it's still boiling hot, I could do that and save a life when the person is still alive and not before brain damage. So I went ahead and I created the Ambi Cycle, which you see here with in the Lehigh Valley Federation. You actually see a real Ambi Cycle that we created 28 years ago. It was the first Ambi Cycle ever in the world. It was a simple idea, taking a motorcycle and turn it into an ambulance and putting all the medical supplies you need, a defibrillator, oxygen, resuscitation equipment, trauma equipment, everything an ambulance has inside, you put it in the back, besides for a stretcher. And that's how we started saving lives, with these Ambi Cycles, with these volunteers. And slowly we started gaining more and more volunteers. Then years later, when we were very efficient saving lives in Jerusalem or in other cities around Israel, Tel Aviv, I realized that if we want to get to 90 seconds, we need to go broader than our Jewish communities. We need to go to everywhere. And one day I get a phone call from a man. He says, my name is Murad, and I recognize Murad as an Arab name. He says, I'm with this guy, Muhammad. We want to meet you. I said, what is it about? He said, Hazallah. He couldn't pronounce Hazallah. He couldn't pronounce Hatzalah. Hatzalah means save in Hebrew, Hatzalah. It's Hatzalah, Hatzilu. He couldn't pronounce it. I thought he said Hezbollah. I got scared. You know, Hezbollah, Hatzalah sounds so weird, so close to each other. So what is this guy? He wants Hezbollah. He wants to talk to me about Hezbollah. And he said, no, Hatzalah, Hatzalah. I said, oh, okay. What do you want about? What is it? What is one you to talk to? I need to talk to you. I want to meet with you. So I said, okay, come meet with me. They came to meet with me and they said to me that this guy, Muhammad's father, had a cardiac arrest. He collapsed. And they waited for almost an hour for an ambulance to arrive. And he saw his father, who was 52 years old, die in front of his eyes. He said, I lived in East Jerusalem. And I waited for almost an hour for my father to be saved. And by the time the ambulance came, they couldn't do anything. My father died. And my brothers and sisters are now orphans. I'm an orphan. My mother is a widow. I don't want this to happen to anyone. What happened to me? I want to join United. I want to join Hatzalah. It was called Hatzalah then. And he says, I want to save lives of Jews and Muslims and everyone who need me. When I heard that, I said, you know what? When I started this organization, it was all about saving lives. It wasn't saving only Jews, it was saving everyone. I said to him in Arabic, Ahlan wa sahlan, you're welcome to join us. But one condition, you need to bring 25 people passionate like you. I'm going to start the first Arabic course in Hatzalah. And I'm going to change the name from Hatzalah to United Hatzalah. Because it made sense to me. We need to be united to win our worst enemy, the devil. This devil gets there so fast. We need to get there faster. And the only way to do it is to hold hands together and we fight the distance and traffic together. So he got 25 volunteers, and this was the best thing that happened to the organization. The Ambi Cycles, the volunteers connecting with other people that were not like us, different religions. But in the end of the day, we have the same values of saving lives. These people that joined us are incredible, who love people, who love saving lives, who love helping. And now United Hatzalah, many years after we started, I started in 1989 when I was 16 years old. Now we have 6,200 volunteers across Israel, 550 Arabs volunteers. We have 1,200 Ambi Cycles, 1,200 Ambi Cycles, saving lives. So I travel all around the world speaking about this organization, trying to raise more funds to save more people. And unfortunately, I'm going to share something personal. About 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, in March 2020, I was in Miami. I love Miami. It's a great place. And I was in Miami and I didn't feel well after traveling a lot. And unfortunately, I felt maybe something is wrong. Maybe I have COVID, but no one knew what COVID is. So 3 days after I was feeling terrible, I went to the hospital and I was the first person that they admitted into the ICU COVID department in Miami. And I was there for a few days, and 3 days after I got there, the doctors came over to me. They said, we have no choice. We have to put you in a coma. We have to induce you into coma and put you on a ventilator. Because if you don't, well, you're just going to die right away from a cardiac arrest. You don't have oxygen in your body. Your oxygen level is dropping. And the doctor said to me, Ellie, we have no choice. Please get ready for this. I mean, I was the first one in the hospital that were doing it too. This is University of Miami. And I asked them, could I call my family to say goodbye? And I called Israel. I called my children. I said goodbye to my 5 kids. I knew I'm not going to survive this. The doctor said in Europe, 5% of the people survive this situation. In Spain and in Italy, it was crazy what's going on. And they didn't know how to deal with it. So I called my wife and kids and I said, all I want from you is to be good people, good Jews, save lives, help people, do chesed, do kindness. That's all I care about. No matter who needs your help, just run out to help people. And a few minutes later, the doctors came over. They said, you have to stop the phone conversation because your oxygen level is going down. And they put me in a coma. And then they were fighting for my life for a month. Around a month, I was in a coma on a ventilator. And then a miracle happened. And so many people were praying and caring about me and doing good things and kindness for me that I woke up it was a big miracle. And a couple of days later, I arrived back to Israel. When I came back, I had a surprise. I came with a plane. We landed in Israel. I landed in Israel. And the airport was closed. No planes were coming in, but 1,000 volunteers of United Hatzalah were waiting for me. And I saw the passion in their eyes. They were all waiting to have back one of their family members. I'm a family member, and I was looking around to see the volunteers. And I was looking for one volunteer in particular, who I heard what he did while I was sick. This guy, Ibrahim, who while I was sick, before Passover, We got a Hatzalah emergency call. We got about a lady, 90 years old. She called for help and she said, please save my life. I need candles to light for Passover. I don't have candles. Now we are a medical organization. Could you imagine a medical 911? Yeah, I need candles to light. They're gonna say, sorry, go to Walmart. But Israel was locked down. They had a lockdown. Older people could not go shop. They couldn't go and leave their home. And this lady was living alone. She had no family. She said she's 90 years old. She said, please send someone. And you know what? I always tell my volunteers, never say no for a good opportunity to do something good. And that's what I taught my volunteers, 6,000 volunteers around Israel. That's what they do all day, helping people, no matter what it is. So they send out the emergency call through our technology to the closest volunteers. And Ibrahim, an Arab volunteer from Jaffa, jumped on an Ambi Cycle and went to buy the candles and drove over to her to Bat Yam, knocked on the door in the top floor of a building. She saw him, she started crying. She said, you saved my life. And he said, could I join you and sit with you? And he saw her, she said, yes, please. He sat with her 2.5 hours. This is the first person she was talking to in weeks. And he spent a Seder night with her. Ibrahim is a Muslim. He never did a Seder night. He never sang the Haggadah. He never ate matzah. But he sat there for 2.5 hours. And he said to her, why did you say when I came in that I saved your life? And I see you lit 15 candles. And she said to him, Ellie, you saved, she said, Ibrahim, you saved my life because when I was a child, I always lit candles with my mother and sisters, for Shabbat or Chag. And during the Holocaust, when we were taken by the Nazis, I always lit something, a piece of paper, a piece of wood. I never missed a week. So when I came to Israel, when I was liberated, I came to Palestine, I came to Eretz Israel, I decided to light 15 candles for all the members of my family who were murdered by the Nazis. And I never missed a week until this week. And I saw that if I don't have enough candles, I didn't go shopping for a few weeks. If I don't have enough candles to light, I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna survive this pandemic. So I decided if I don't feel well, I'm gonna call United Hatzalah. So I called and you came to save my life. And you came and you brought me the candles. Now I know I will survive this. And she goes ahead and she shows him the number she has tattooed on her hand. Ibrahim started crying. When I got back to Israel, I was looking for him. I told him, Ibrahim, I heard the story. Ibrahim said he never felt so good in his life. Like that moment where he saved this Holocaust survivor by just bringing her candles. So I want to thank you, all of you who are on this Zoom call, who will be listening later, who are involved with the Lehigh Federation, to thank you for everything you do for supporting Israel, supporting the community, the Maimonides organization. What you do, the society you're involved with is amazing. I want to thank you for everything you do. The Jewish Federation, continue the great work for Am Israel. We love you.
Thank you so much, Ellie. That was really touching and you're a great storyteller and you have a great story to tell. My first big question is, I have two very important ones. One is, did you get the kippah back from that original injury? That was not a real question. The other is
no, it's actually a good. I'll answer you that. Okay. I'll answer you that later. Yeah.
The other is, will we get to meet you when we're in Israel at the end of March or whatever the date that we have is on our mission? That's very important to me.
Thank you so much. The first question is such a good question because when I got to the hospital 2 days later and Dr. Rifkin was there from Hadassah, the doctor who treated him in the trauma section in the hospital, he heard the story about me stopping the bleeding. He came over and he was a very cynical doctor. I love him. We're still friends till today. He's involved with United. He's the head of our medical community today. And he asked me, he told me that this man was on Coumadin. And if it wasn't for that yarmulke, this person would have been dead. But he said to me, listen, next time, recommendation, use a real bandage, not a yarmulke. A yarmulke, if you want to use it for religious reasons, he said it's also very good to take hot things out of the oven. You could use it for that, but not for stopping blood from people. So he said, go, if you want to be a hero, go buy yourself a bag of medical supplies and use that. That's what I did. So thank you for that question. I never got the yarmulke back, but I have my own now. And the second question is, yes, I'll definitely, with me, I'm like I travel 200 days a year, and my kids call me because I'm on the plane so much. I'm more in the air than I'm on the ground. So my kids call me Avinu Shabashamayim, our Father up in heaven. So I'm going to try my best to be there. I want you to all come, and I'm going to make sure to be there in Israel.
Another question we have from one of our viewers is, how long do the Ambi Cycles stay in service? And as a follow-up to that, I would like to know how much shorter is when an actual ambulance comes, the decrement in time that they're actually there? Are they basically just providing transport at that point? I'm sure you have some stats. I'm just kind of interested in that. So two-part question.
Yes. So first of all, the Ambi Cycles, we usually have them between 3 to 5 years. It matters where it's stationed. It's not less than 3 years, because if it's in Jerusalem, a lot of hills and a lot of emergencies, the more we use them, the less safe they are afterwards. But they go out to average of between 15 to 1,800 emergencies in a lifespan, which is unbelievable. Think about it. If one person was alive because of this, it was worth the whole thing. But we're saving hundreds of people with each Ambi Cycle. So that's the first question he asked. And then the real difference between an Ambi Cycle and an ambulance, we need both. You can't have one. But we were the first one who realized that you need both. Every ambulance organization around the world, Hong Kong, Paris, New York, always send an ambulance or a fire truck. We realize that's not fast enough. So the big difference between an Ambi Cycle and an ambulance is around 11 minutes, which is life and death. So that's why we focus on a lot of Ambi Cycles. It has all the medical supplies there, but then we need the ambulance to come and show up and take the person to the hospital.
I have another question, which is, sort of a modern question is, is there a role in addition for, drones delivering some equipment and, a core group of volunteers that just happen to be, within a text message of being very close to even cut that issue shorter?
Look, our biggest success is really the volunteers, not even the Ambi Cycles. We have 6,200 Meshuggahs. I don't know if you know what Meshuggahs are. These are people who are leaving their families, leaving their jobs. We have taxi drivers in Israel who are driving their own cars, who are traveling all day on the roads, and are trained EMTs and paramedics. They're driving, they throw out their customers when they have an emergency call, and they say, "We're so sorry, we're not going to charge you, but we have an emergency call to take." And then people don't know what you're talking about. We're a taxi driver. What are you doing? They said, "No, I'm in United Hatzalah." We have plumbers who, while they're working and fixing someone's kitchen, plumbing stuff, they get an emergency call and they run out to the neighbor of that person and to save them. We have lawyers who leave court and they said, "Judge, I have an emergency call." "What are you talking about?" "I'm in United Hatzalah. I have to go save someone." This is the type of people we have, and that's why we get there so quick. So the drones are the next, we're working on some kind of right now we use drones for search and rescue. It's not ready yet to transfer defibrillators, even so they have some organizations, companies around the world who invented defibrillator drones. It's not ready yet for our needs in Israel. I don't want to see a drone or someone defibrillator fall on someone's head from the sky. We're not ready yet for that, but eventually it's going to be one of the new technologies that's going to be there. Maybe, who knows, maybe we'll send one of our paramedics on a drone to go save someone one day. Who would have imagined, like all these new technologies like Tesla and this and that and all these craziness? It's going to happen. Our goal is to use technologies to get there faster. And the faster we get there, the less damage there is.
One last question from our audience, and then just a closing comment, which is the question from Bob Wilson, which is about EMTs versus paramedics. I don't know if that's a distinguishing characteristic in Israel, and he wanted to know what's the breakdown, if there is such a characterization.
Yeah, so how many doctors do we have here in this call or involved, right? A lot of doctors, right? So the most trained people are doctors. They go 7 years to school and a lot of work to train. But then they go specialize in one field, usually doctors. They go specialize, in OBGYN or whatever. And paramedics are 3-year training or 2.5-year training, and they know almost everything from everything, and they specialize in a general knowledge, and they always have to be on the road to continue training and everything, and they know that they need to know everything. Paramedics could admit medicines, intubate people, even trach people, needles, a lot of stuff that doctors do. They could do almost everything, paramedics, but they can't operate on someone. They can't do things they do in the hospital, but they could do on the field, emergency response. Paramedics could do everything, more or less. Unfortunately, could also pronounce someone dead. But you need a doctor on the other side of the line somewhere to authorize that. The paramedic has to tell the doctor what's going on. And then the EMTs are amazing. I love EMTs. And the reason I love EMTs is because they're willing to go to any emergency. Their training is about a year, more or less. It's twice a week. It's 200 hours altogether. And then they have 100 hours with hospitals and ambulances. So it takes about a year of training. EMTs are ready to go any emergency call. Someone's headache, he has a headache, a really bad headache, an EMT would go. Paramedic, no, it's not for me. A doctor says not for me. So EMTs is the majority of our volunteers. The 3 people you see behind me are all EMTs. 85% of our volunteer corps are emergency medical technicians who are trained to deal with everything but basic life support. They can't give medication. They can give IV, but they can't give medication. So then we have, when it's an emergency that needs paramedics, we'll also have paramedics. They're coming, and doctors as well. So that's how it works. And that's why we're successful, because people don't ask questions. When somebody needs help, they just run out to help. And it's just amazing to see how many people were saved. We go out to almost 2,000 emergencies every day in Israel. 2,000 emergencies every day for free. We're the only free ambulance service and EMT service and EMS service in Israel. And that's what's so beautiful about it.
Oh, great. In closing, I just wanted to mention one more time that, we as a community are thrilled to have donated this Ambi Cycle, and we're thrilled to be coming to Israel to dedicate it. The idea, the first time I heard of the idea was actually once I was planning a Maimonides / bike mission to Israel. Larry Levitt said, "Billy, we have to use this as an opportunity to get another Ambi Cycle." And of course, when Mickey passed, he called me, I think within 2 days, "Let's do this for Mickey." And so we're really happy to do this as a community, happy to dedicate the Ambi Cycle in honor of Mickey and all of the other founders of the Maimonides Society. So looking forward to meeting you in person in 2 months or so. And thank you so much for your talk. It was fantastic.
Thank you so much for everything you do, really. And I really hope we're together for so many years, and you guys are always there for us, for Israel, to help us save lives. I really hope we should do this like a tradition, once a year at least, an Ambi Cycle. And more people could donate to the Federation more money to do more stuff, defibrillators and Ambi Cycles and other things through the Federation. We love working with the Lehigh Valley Federation. It's amazing, and the Maimonides Society is unbelievable. Maimonides, if he was if Maimonides was alive today, he would be on the Zoom call. You know that. He would be very proud of you. And he'll probably want to drive an Ambi Cycle because he's a doctor. So love you guys, and Toda Rabah for inviting me.
Good morning, everyone. I am Carol Bub Fromer. As most of you know, I have spent many years as a Federation volunteer and a lay leader for women's philanthropy. And as a physician, I am a proud member of Maimonides Society for the past 2 decades. I was fortunate to know the founding fathers and to grow up with the Offberg family. Uncle Mickey always led by example with his family, his philanthropy, and his doctoring. In his quiet and gentle manner, he forged a path of wisdom and altruism that has personally inspired both Gary and I. As we celebrate Mickey Offberg and this 35th anniversary of the Maimonides Society, consider this. As physicians and healthcare providers, many of our most enduring memories are of illnesses that posed impossible challenges, often resulting in intense human interaction, feeling stretched to the outermost limits of humanity. We have learned that knowledge of the human condition is not only derived from books, but from intimate engagement with other human beings. And whether it is intentional or not, this learned yet innate understanding extends beyond our office doors and into the world around us, in this case, the Jewish world. Because while we might not have a Maimonides degree or diploma hanging on our walls, our ability to heal extends to and impacts so many outside of our daily roster. As physicians, we know that when a patient is anxious, ailing, or even dying, it is their identities that they cling to so desperately, even more so than the mere fact of their survival. We understand this as we see it every day, and therein lies the special connection of the doctors of our Jewish community and our Federation. For Federation helps so many without a voice who are clinging desperately to their identity. We recognize these challenges. We acknowledge their humility, and with your help, we are able to respond to their crisis. And in doing so, we all perfect the art of healing. On behalf of the Jewish Federation, I thank you all for your commitment to our Maimonides division, and am proud to be your colleague. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. I'm Gary Fromer. I serve as president of Jewish Federation of the Lehigh Valley. I want to take a quick opportunity to thank the political leaders who joined us today and for their proclamations. Congresswoman Wild, Ellen Kern representing the office of Senator Pat Brown, Representative Mike Schlossberg, and Mayor Matt Turk. Thank you all for joining us. We have these nice mics. The political leaders and I were actually practicing to do Backstreet's Back for you, but we ran out of time, so we're not going to be able to do that today. I apologize. We've learned, unfortunately, we've had to learn a lot in the past couple of years, and we're learning something that Mickey Offberg well understood, which is Jews here in Allentown, in America, can't be safe, healthy, and successful unless Jews in Israel and around the world are healthy, safe, and successful and have an opportunity for success. And for that matter, I think everyone in the health profession is learning that we can't have a safe population here unless we have a safe population around the world. And Maimonides has been at the forefront for the last 35 years of leading the charge really on our relationship from a health perspective with Israel, for the Lehigh Valley and now for communities all over America and all over the world. So wishing and hoping for another 120 years of Maimonides and success, which is up to us. So thank you very much for joining today, and we look forward to a much better 2022. Thank you.